AM and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. It's Monday night at 9. Time for Sex Talk with Dr. Richard Siegel, a certified sex therapist and sexuality educator. Dr. Siegel is here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality that you might not have known who to ask. He'll also welcome special guests to talk about a wide variety of topics within the fascinating world of sexuality. So, welcome to Sex Talk.
Good evening. It's Monday night. Time for Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers. My name is Dr. Richard Siegel. I'm a certified sex therapist and supervisor.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
We are happy to be here with you. Thank you for joining us. If you're listening on the radio, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM in South Florida. We're streaming live on Facebook. Search for Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers. And if you miss it, you can catch it on Facebook, or we archive on YouTube as well.
Yes, indeed.
So we have one of our favorite new friends in the ASEC world going to be joining us in a little while. We're very happy to have Dr. David Lay joining us from Santa Fe. He'll be on in probably about 5 or 10 minutes because, you know, the delay from Santa Fe. But just wanted to briefly mention that I'm just back last night from a wonderful weekend in New York City. It warmed up for me because this Florida guy can't take the cold, and it was pretty bitter last week, but it was beautiful in the 40s and 50s, and we had our debut weekend for 2018 of Modern Sex Therapy Institutes for our New York Institute.
A quick minute or so, just explain what that is.
Thank you very much. I'd be happy to. Modern Sex Therapy Institutes is a multi-site, multi-city institute postgraduate training for psychotherapists and medical professionals, physicians, nurse practitioners, pelvic floor physical therapists, and we train them to become certified as sex therapists or sexuality educators or sexuality counselors for the medical professionals. And it's incredibly exciting, as we talk about a lot on the show. It's a really good time for sex therapy with the emergence of sexual medicine. And I just wanted to mention the wonderful speakers we had this weekend in New York. One close, good friend with David Lay also presented yesterday, Dr. Michael Aaron, on alt sex and relationships in transition. I want to give a plug for a conference that he is co-hosting in Manhattan at the end of April on the 27th, Friday, Alt Sex NYC.
If I can, let me interrupt if I can, because we have a caller. We have Becky on the line. So let's see, Becky, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Hi there.
How you doing? What's on your mind?
Great meeting you guys down in Miami.
Becky in Boca.
Hey, it's Becky in Boca.
Hey there.
Nice to hear from you. Thanks for calling in.
I have been watching your shows, and they are fantastic. I didn't even know about you guys. You're on the same network. I had to find out about you down in Miami.
That's right. We had to meet in Miami.
Go figure. Yeah, thanks very much for saying so. I really appreciate it.
I got to bring you guys on my show.
Absolutely. We'd love to do it.
And we got a chair in here for you as well.
That's right.
Okay, so we're gonna go on each other's shows. I know I gave you guys my card, so one of you guys text me or call me tomorrow, and I'll figure out a date. But I wanted to ask you a quick question. I know you have a guest coming on.
Sure.
This is really funny. I was thinking about this today. I thought I got to ask you guys on the show tonight. There's this guy that follows me and Karen Turk on social media. I don't know if you know Karen. She was Mrs. Florida, but we do a lot of broadcasting together. Anyway, he calls himself Bunyan Lover.
Bunyan?
Bunyan Lover.
Okay.
Like foot bunions?
Yes, foot bunions.
Right. So he's like a fetishist for foot growth.
Yes, and we're trying to figure it out because he's always commenting on our posts, and you know, Karen and I don't have any bunions, of course, but but he seems to be very interested. So what kind of a situation are we dealing here with this guy? Is this like a sexual perversion?
Yeah, well, perversion is kind of a pejorative term, but it certainly falls under the heading of a fetish, a kind of a paraphilia, a non-traditional kind of, we could say...
a sexual
love
variant,
map.
as it were.
Yeah, a sexual variant. Obviously, the more common one is just kind of a general foot fetish. Somehow...
No, he's very specific.
Very
to bunions.
specific
Yeah,
about
as
bunions.
a lot of fetishes
Yes.
are, very
And,
specific.
Right. Sometimes they're easy to maybe trace back, wonder how, kind of childhood events that could trigger this kind of thing. But for sex therapists, we usually try and dissuade people from making a mental health disorder out of it and say that people have a diagnosis because they're into a particular kind of kink, which is, I guess, the more popular.
It seems to be somewhat common. I mean, I'm sure he's not the only one.
Well, bunions is very specific, but foot fetishes are very, very
Right.
common. A lot of famous
And-
people are
and
kind of
I'm
out.
sure he's not the only bunion aficionado
Sure, yeah.
out there either. I've been saying this for a while,
Okay, well,
too.
okay,
If
so
you can
Karen and
think
I
of
will
it,
just-
somebody's getting off to it.
Sure, that's
Okay,
internet
just-
meme number 34.
One more quick question, if you guys have a minute.
Sure.
Okay, do you guys know what furries are?
Yes.
Okay, I saw two furries in Publix the other day, and I had my young nieces with me, so they pointed them out, and they're from Illinois, and they said there's a furry in one of their junior high schools. Now, these are people that want to be animals, so they dress like animals. Is this a sexual perversion, or what is this?
I mean, again, it's a variant. I think it's part of what is often in a larger picture called cosplay.
Right.
Costume play,
Right.
character play.
Sometimes there's a very broad, big line between what's kind of really a sexual thing and what's more of a lifestyle, kind of an erotic template. And furries, I think, is a broad category.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's play only during sex play. Sometimes it's a whole lifestyle thing. Not
No, it's a
too
lifestyle.
unlike people who are
It's-
into like a BDSM kind of, which also means many different things.
Sure, and actually, I think that it's a good point, and we can end on that, and it's a good segue into our guest. But if we look at all human behavior, especially sexual behavior, it all exists on a continuum. Right?
Okay.
No matter what it is that we're talking about, even take the most extreme thing you can think of, that still goes on a continuum where there is another side of that, where it is just, for a lot of people, healthy sex play, fantasy play, just an expression of maybe non-traditional desires.
Right.
Okay.
You know, let me put it to you this way, and then we can get ready for Dr. Lay.
Yeah, you got someone coming in.
The difference between kink and perversion is...
You're gonna go there.
Yeah, sure. Kinky is like playing with feathers, and perverted is using the whole bird.
Right.
But right, that's an oldie but a goodie.
On that note, but I want you guys on my show, and we can talk about this stuff further. I would love to do a whole sex show with you guys.
Absolutely, it
love
would be
it
our
too.
pleasure,
Thanks so
Becky.
much for calling in, Becky.
Okay, contact me tomorrow. I'm going to bring you on the Becky and Boca show.
I will.
Terrific.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye,
Good
guys.
night. Thanks. And we do have our renowned
He's
guest on.
There he is.
There he is. Nice
David.
and clean shaven.
Hi, guys.
Nice to see you.
How are you, David?
I'm doing really well. How about you guys?
Good.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah,
You know,
it's funny. I was just talking with somebody about shaving my beard. It's the first time I haven't had a beard in about 15 years.
Nice.
How long has it been
I-
since you've shaved it off?
About 15 years. I mean, I grew it because for years my nickname was Doogie Howser because I look so young, so I had to grow the beard. Now that I've got some mileage under me, so let me ask you guys. You know, we're still early enough into the new year. What did you guys give up for the new year? What's your New Year's resolution? I'll tell you mine, but I want to hear yours first.
But I didn't give up anything. Well, no, that's not true.
Well, I gave up giving up things, actually.
Yeah, and I try and avoid drama as much as possible. But actually, no, this year there was one real thing, and it really has to do with this down here. I vowed to, because I've spent this whole past year, as you know, writing this cursed book, which is just about finished. Shout out to James Wadley, my co-editor on the art of sex therapy supervision. So I've been completely sedentary and got to do something about this. So what's yours? I bet something a lot more sexy than mine.
Well, I had the choice between giving up being funny for the year and giving up masturbation. And, you know, a man's
that's a hell of a choice.
got to do. So I gave up being funny.
Being funny?
Yeah, I'm done with being funny because masturbation is just way too important to a man's health.
Good start.
Sure.
All
Okay.
right.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, could you masturbate in a funny way?
Absolutely.
Or at least laugh while you're doing it?
Then I'd have to start the year over, and 2017 was already long enough. 2018 already seems long enough. Are you kidding me? We're 3 weeks into this year, and this is what we've got, a government shutdown? Please.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's, I don't even want to, I don't even want to start in on that nonsense.
A theme of the show has emerged as just outrage.
Yes.
And you know as well as we, that's the best motivator in this line of work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you, did you notice, I don't know if you read the Trump book, Fire and Fury, but did you notice the part in there about Trump cuckolding his friends?
No.
No, have not read the book.
So cuckolding, you know, my first book was about cuckolding, and cuckolding is...
If I could say, that was Insatiable Wives, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Wow, you're a fan.
Yeah.
You know, cuckolding is when men, you know, really enjoy their wives having sex with other men. But historically, the term was when a man's wife was cheating on him without permission.
Right.
And in Fire and Fury, Wolf tells this account of Trump bragging about how he likes to seduce the wives of his friends by making the wives think that their friends are cheating on her, and then the wives jump into Trump's lap, and it's just extraordinary because, you know, the Republicans have been making this big thing about cuckolding. And
I love how it's become the new alt-right insult, right? How the Bannon wing calls the Kushner wing
the cucks.
cuck.
Yeah.
And they've not yet had me on Fox News. I don't understand why.
Hold your breath for that one.
Not even Katie Couric's called you back?
Oh, now you're going there. Yes, any of your listeners.
I'm sorry, but
if they want to see my pain,
I think that's worthy of mention because it was just so insane.
God.
And one of those moments, I was just looking for things to throw at the screen, right? When she actually said to you, I'm sorry, but if you say according to the research one more time, like that's really
like there's something wrong with that.
Yeah, and I recorded this interview with Katie Couric a couple of years ago about the dangers of pornography, and you know, she wanted to really catastrophize and moralize, and
it's better
talk about
TV.
How dangerous pornography is. Yeah, and I was on the show to talk about pornography or talk about research really, and she cut me off and didn't want to hear about that, and I will admit, I walked off the show, I went to the bar in the hotel, and I got unbelievably drunk. It was a bad experience, but out of that, I realized that we are doing a bad job sometimes. We are doing a bad job when we talk too much about research, because ordinary folks don't really give much of a crap about research. And they want to hear about real people. And so I realized after that show that we needed to work on connecting with people and telling stories in ways people could engage with. So I actually,
that's important.
My third book is called Ethical Porn for Dick,
Richards.
and Guide to Responsible Viewing Pleasure, and I wrote it as though I was drinking beer with a buddy over and talking about pornography. And I dedicated the book to Katie. I've offered to send her a copy, but she has not responded to my email yet. I'm crossing my fingers.
Nice. Now, let me just sort of put out there, because we've sort of pressed these buttons too many times since we've been doing this. So if we're going to refer to your book again, we're going to refer to it as Ethical Porn for Richards.
You know, the FCC and all that stuff.
EP4D. You know?
Yes, we can't keep getting shut down.
Right?
But I must say, I've now bought and given away my third copy of the book. It just lends itself to, sitting in the office talking to a patient and just reach over and grab it off the shelf and say, "Here, you've got to go home and read this."
Yeah, same thing with my students.
Brother, wow, I'm going to send you $6. That's the commission that I get out of those 3 books. So thank you.
Yeah,
$6. I paid $29.
It's an important read, and really, and well, of course, I guess your second book, the one which you really ticked off the largest number of people, which I think is the most important because of our research and our particular pet peeves.
Right.
Your book called "The Myth of Sex Addiction," and of course,
I get more death threats out of that book than any of my other.
Seriously, death threats.
I get wives.
I'm not surprised.
With me. My third book, I get lots of naked pictures. My second book, I get death threats.
Yeah.
This one's my favorite.
Well, it's nice to be well-rounded.
I mean, it's a scary statement on our state of sexual health, and in the context of the end of 2017, and all of this renewed attention on trying to get that get-out-of-jail-free card for CAD behavior and sexual assault, and everybody running to make a disease out of it.
Yeah, but it also, I think, taps into what again, the issue you had with Katie Couric. This idea of do not confuse me or do not confound me with facts and data and reality, because you're getting in the way of what I want to believe.
Yeah, Stephen Colbert's truthiness.
That right? That was so great.
Feeling true is more important than being true.
Right.
Yeah, and the strength of my belief is evidence that is equivalent to your scientific research.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Well, we know, again, credibility is now basically attained by many people through righteous indignation.
Yeah, boy, if anything is addictive, it's righteous indignation.
Yep,
right?
It sure is. It sure is.
Really, I think, though, God dang it, we brought this on ourselves. I mean, with abstinence-only education, with, treating sexuality as this external thing that we should all be afraid of and distrust. Right. I see so many people come to me who have just suffered catastrophic harm from these decades of being taught that their sexuality is something they should be desperately afraid of, and something they should fight. And when you declare war on your own sexuality, you're engaging in a battle that you're guaranteed to lose.
Absolutely. And by extension, and Marty Klein used to talk about this, if my sexuality is threatening to me, then yours is that much more so. So it becomes a real obstacle in creating healthy relationships and in developing intimate connections. This is that shame-based, puritanical legacy we still live.
What I do with, and at this point in my career, most of the patients who come looking for me specifically are folks who are either struggling with issues of pornography, or they have been identified or diagnosed as a sex addict or a porn addict by somebody. And, the overwhelming majority of these folks, I spend a lot of time helping them to recognize, accept, even embrace the sexual feelings that they have during the day, so that they can recognize them when they come up and exert self-control. I think that the real dilemma is that being turned on affects our judgment. It affects our impulsivity and our self-control, and that's the way we were made. We were made to be a creature that would take any opportunity to have sex. And now in today's world, in the Me Too movement, for instance, we have to learn to exert some choice and some self-control and be able to rein ourselves in. But the thing I really worry about, though, amongst a lot of the modern debate is that we are portraying men as these sexual monsters who don't have the ability to control themselves.
Right.
And when we do that, we actually create the next generation of rape crisis where men are saying, oh, well, it wasn't my fault. She got me turned on.
Sure. Yeah. The feminine wiles argument,
sure.
right?
But isn't that also the basis of the way I think the three of us kind of collectively look at this problem with the quote sex addiction? It's really all about this claim that I can't help it, I can't control it. It's a force that is so much greater than me, and I can only give into it.
That's right. And you know, one of the stories I love to tell about that is Sam Brownback, who's currently governor of Kansas. And Kansas, I'm sorry, because you guys aren't doing well under Governor Brownback. When Brownback was senator, he actually led hearings in the Senate about the dangers of pornography.
Yes.
And he told this story about men who checked into the hotel and they had to have the television removed from the hotel because they knew that they might be tempted to watch pornography. And Brownback said, "Oh, look, see how dangerous pornography is." I tell that exact same story to patients, and I say instead, look how smart these guys were. They knew that in the middle of the night, they might be horny and lonely and tired and tempted to do something that would disagree with their morals in the morning.
Excellent.
So they made a decision early on to increase the likelihood that they could engage in moral, consistent behavior. I think that's a really important point because the people that we are seeing these days struggle the most. I mean, since my book came out, there's been a lot of research, and I'm really thrilled about it. The research is really supporting a lot of my ideas, and it's finding that the overwhelming majority of the people who identify as addicted to pornography or addicted to sex are people who grew up in religious and moral households.
It's an internal conflict.
That's right. They had that moral conflict, that inside struggle about these desires that they have that they were told not to have.
Right.
And now the modern world of the internet and Craigslist and Grindr and Tinder offers you all of these sexual opportunities that many of these young people just weren't prepared to manage.
Right.
And when they struggle with those feelings, it's very easy to say, oh, that feeling is like an addiction. It's like a drug or alcohol. And instead, I think we need to be better preparing people to recognize everybody struggles with these feelings. The job is learning how to understand them, recognize them, and make decisions that help you make better choices when you're in that moment.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And in order for that to happen, they have to own those feelings. They have to accept that this is something that is coming from them.
And not something that can be extinguished.
Right, or exercised, as it were.
Yeah.
Or externalized, all those X words.
Yes, absolutely.
Triple X, you guys just brought porn into the conversation. Way to go, dude.
Let's bring it back around because this half hour just flies by ridiculously fast. I read online about your new, actually I read the paper you shared, your new research project. It's real exciting also because you've made officially a researcher out of just
Dan.
a long-time columnist, Dan Savage, who I saw at a conference at the Planned Parenthood Deeper Well, had to be around 2000, 2001. He walked into a room full of sexuality educators, walked up to the podium. The very first words out of his mouth were, and I can't quote exactly because of the radio, he said, "You people need to quit your effing jobs." And he was talking about the point you made before, that even, you know, the so-called comprehensive sex ed, the good guys, not the preacher, the ones preaching abstinence until you're married in a heterosexual marriage, were so afraid of risking their gig, of talking about pleasure or just, you know, being wed to these statistics and research, that you're right. You know, we also kind of do ourselves a disservice by fearing the subject we're supposed to be taking fear out of.
And that's a good point, because it doesn't necessarily look like that. And David, I think you've alluded to this a number of times, and I think what you were just saying before as well, that when we often hide behind data, we hide behind research, because it's easier than really speaking directly to the sexual part of the person, what they're doing, just confronting it directly. So we I think offer ourselves a buffer with a lot of the data and research base. And I just really love your point about we need to make more of a connection.
So, you know, it's funny because Dan, I actually, wow, so you just sort of maybe revealed something to me. So Dan, I've always envied Dan, because Dan Savage, he has this brilliant and beautiful ability to go out there and just be an obnoxious jerk, poking people about their sexual morality. And I've always felt like, dang, Dan, I wish I could be you. So he and I had a conversation about gay cuckolding, because he had always said that there was no such thing. He said, gay men love to share their men with other men, and it doesn't have the flavor of the humiliation or the aspect that heterosexual cuckolding does. So after gay marriage, after marriage equality, all of a sudden, all this gay cuckold porn started popping up online. And Dan reached out to me and said, do you think this is about, the legalization of marriage equality and stuff? And I said, well, we should write a paper about it. And he said, I've never written a paper. I've never written an academic paper. And I wrote back and I said, well, I get to pop Dan Savage's cherries. and he said, I didn't know I had any cherries left. So do you see, you reveal that I took away the thing that Dan had protecting him, because now I made him a researcher and an academic publisher. So now he's got the same limitations the rest of us do. I made him human. It was Krypton. The academic publication was my Krypton for Dan Savage. Oh, my God. Krypton.
Wow.
There you go.
Well done.
I think we should all apologize to him. Quick.
No, I think it needed to happen. It needed to happen.
The really neat thing about that article, and my absolute respect to Justin Lehmiller, who stepped in and saved Dan and I from the humiliation of publishing just a thought piece. And Justin came in and helped us do some really thoughtful research and collected research, survey data and stuff like that, and analyzed it because I suck at math. And but the thing that we found that there were a couple of things in that research that I found that were just so extraordinary. One was that the flavor of non-monogamy, or the flavor of cuckolding that certain people liked or were attracted to in fantasy and behavior, was consistent with certain aspects of their personality. So that, for instance, and there was a lot of detail to this, but the more securely attached a person was to their partner, the more willing they were to fantasize or watch that partner have sex with somebody they knew.
Right.
But if they weren't very securely attached to their partner, they were still fantasizing about their partner having sex with somebody else, but now it was a stranger, and a stranger is kind of less threatening.
Yeah.
Less threatening in the relationship. And so that, I think, teaches us a lot about the ways in which sexual fantasies reflect kind of our personality, our characteristics of our relationship, and these individual nuances. The other thing that we found that I thought was just unbelievably interesting was that the more heterosexual a man was, the more interested he was in watching his partner with a man with a big penis.
Yes.
And so the more gay a guy was, he didn't really care about how big his partner's the penis of the man that he shared his partner with was, which says that all of these Republicans who are so deeply obsessed with cuckolding are really interested in the size of the penis of the man they share their partner with.
Sure.
Wow.
Sure.
But they're not gay. They're androphilic. We're gonna have to wrap it up with that dig right there. But we just really want to thank you for coming on the show, and hope you'll do it again sometime.
Yeah,
soon.
really appreciate it.
And we hope that we're going to see you in Denver in June at the ASEC conference. And always a pleasure getting a chance to talk with you. But
really, the top of the list of people that just truly respect and admire. And just love talking to you.
And
so
taking the arrows out there for the rest of us behind you. We appreciate it.
That's right. Thanks so much.
So you know what the music means.
I love you being out there.
Yes, indeed.
That's our time for this week. Please join us next Monday night and every Monday night for Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers.
Yes, indeed.
In the meantime, keep talking sexy, and we'll see you next week.
That's right. Good night.
You've been listening to Sex Talk with Dr. Richard Siegel. Join us every Monday night at 9 on WNN, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. Or watch live streaming video at AMP2 TV Productions on Facebook, or look for the shows on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again next week.